Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. Time for another movie log. Actually, it's high time for another movie log. I haven't done this for quite a while, so let me get started. I'd like to talk to you about a film that I actually saw in a theater a couple of nights ago. I actually got up out of the house, went outside into the cold night air, and went to the movies. Only the second time that I've been to the movies since the big lockdown of last year, so it was quite an experience. I'm glad that I went. The big movie palace that we have here in Champaign, Illinois, built in 1920 or 21. It's called the Virginia Theater. It's a beautiful um, widescreen theater with all the nice fixtures and everything. The dome on the ceiling, and it's been restored by the park district. And they were locked down for quite a while too, but they're finally getting back into showing occasional movies every month. And somebody has started an art house series, and that got me intrigued. So I decided to go out and see their first film. It's a Polish film from 2018. It's called Cold War. Cold War, and I wish now I'd written down the name of the director. It might be somebody that I've seen his work before, but I can't remember. So I apologize for that. The actors were not people that I knew about, so I didn't write their names down. But anyway, if you've heard about this film and you've wondered whether or not you should see it, I highly recommend it. It's in black and white, beautiful cinematography. It takes place, well, it begins in 1949, post-war Poland, where they're dealing with all the issues of Soviet oppression and trying to get their country back working, and just all the things that people in post-war Europe had to deal with. And a man and a woman, two musicians, decide to open up a school to teach and to promote traditional Polish folk music, singing, and dancing. So there's a lot of music in the film, music I've never heard before. And it's not a musical per se, but the film is actually filled with music all the way through. And this man falls in love with one of the beautiful young women who comes to the school to study singing. And they have this long, very complicated relationship that goes all the way up into the 1960s. So we travel with them through conflicts, separations, defections to the West, all sorts of things as they move through different locations in Europe, Berlin, Yugoslavia. It ends up in Paris and Rome. And when we get to Paris, the man who has defected to the West is now playing the piano in a jazz group in a club in Paris. So the music um, switches from traditional folk music to jazz, and it's played performed beautifully. So it's just a fascinating film, very moving and very sad in many places, very sad at the end. So I'm so glad that I went out to see it, and I recommend it to you. It wasn't actually very easy going out to the movies again. I become very reclusive during this lockdown period, and I just don't. I'm not used to being around that many people anymore. So it was kind of an interesting wake up call, I guess. And I'm very glad that I did it. And hopefully I'll be doing this again. Maybe this will open up my life a little bit. All right. So some of the films that I've been watching here at home, I'd like to show you the first and only film that I've seen that came out in this year, 2021. That is M. Night Shyamalan's Old. Okay. Now this is a blind buy. I picked it up at Barnes and Noble when I was there about a week ago. And I've heard mixed reviews about this. People like it, some people don't. So I just thought, what the hell? I like this director. He's done some good work. And I wanted to see something that was very contemporary. Okay. So I watched this, and I guess I'm glad that I bought it. I have mixed feelings about it as well. I think that it told a very provocative story, but I don't think that it was necessarily executed very well. I have issues with some of the camera work, some of the dialogue, and I just think that I get the feeling that Mr. Shyamalan, for the most part, was trying to just show us a lot of tricks, a lot of cinematic tricks, instead of telling us a really coherent and interesting story. But there's some good performances in there, especially Rufus Sewell. He does very well in this. I think he's a standout. And it does make some provocative statements about certain aspects of modern human life. Don't want to give any spoilers away. I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen this yet. So, anyway, I'll give you a mixed recommendation for this. And I'm glad I bought it. I think I'll probably watch it again. Next up is a film that I bought from the Criterion Collection sale, half price sale, Onibaba from 1964, a Japanese classic that I've been hearing about for years, seeing some of the still photographs, especially with this creepy mask, and decided to pick it up and buy. Wow. All I can say is it absolutely blew me away. One of the most exciting, just riveting films that I've seen in a long time. Beautiful black and white cinematography. Um, Very exciting. Well, I'll run out of adjectives here. It's something that I would recommend to everybody. So, especially if you like Japanese films, if you like great black and white cinematography. It takes place back in the samurai era, whenever that was, and there's a war going on, and these two women, a woman and her daughter-in-law are living by themselves out in the midst of this great sort of wooded area in a crummy little house, and they survive by killing samurai and stealing their armor and their possessions and selling them for food. Okay, and it gets very creepy when this guy shows up wearing this mask, and that's when everything changes. It gets very mystical. This is one I will watch again and again. Very, very exciting film and beautiful to look at. Okay, it's one of these edge of your seat experiences. Next up is something that's about as different from Onibaba as you could possibly get. I grabbed this at Walmart, another blind, well, it's not really a blind buy, but I just impulse buy. Grabbed it off the shelf, said, what the hell? I need to watch these again. Billy Jack, The Experience, Billy Jack, all four films starring Tom Laughlin, a couple of them directed by him. This is The Born Losers from 1967, which is a biker film, introduced the Billy Jack character. Then we have the actual Billy Jack film from 1971, The Trial of Billy Jack, 1974, and Billy Jack Goes to Washington, 1977. Now, the only one I had never seen before is the last film, Billy Jack Goes to Washington. The other three I saw when they first came out. I saw The Born Losers at the drive-in when I was 16. Yeah, sorry, 16. And then I saw the other two when they first came out. Always had mixed feelings about Billy Jack and The Trial of Billy Jack. They seem to just be heavy on violence, and the trial of Billy Jack was filled with way too much information, way too much stuff. But I watched these again after all these years, and of course the fourth film, and I found myself just being pulled into this whole Billy Jack mythology. Not so much with The Born Losers, because in a way it's just kind of a typical biker film. It's pretty good cinema for a biker film, and it does add that aspect of Billy Jack's mystical attitudes about life and Indian lore and all this stuff. But I guess I'm so much of a baby boomer. I guess that Billy Jack just got to me again. I couldn't believe it. And the last film, I didn't realize this, but it was a remake of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. So I need to watch the audio commentaries on these and get some more information. But I'm actually very glad that I bought this. I was not sure that I would enjoy these again, but I did. I was quite surprised. All right, here's a film that I picked up used. It's another early 1940s classics. Only Angels Have Wings. Jean Arthur, Cary Grant, Richard Bartholomew. Yeah, speak, Michael. Barthelmess, and Rita Hayworth. The first film that actually gave Rita Hayworth a very good role. This started her on her way to being a big star. Great performances by everybody. Richard Barthelmess, of course, goes all the way back to silent films. Jean Arthur, I love her more every time I see her. This is a beautiful movie, and I don't think she's ever made a bad film. So, yeah, I'm glad I picked this up. All right. Next up, the last two films that I picked up at Big Lots, they don't seem to have very many things that I like anymore. But I picked up these two films that have to do with the news industry, okay, media, Anchorman, and Morning Glory, okay? And I have to say that I love this one. This was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. Rachel McAdams, Harrison Ford, Diane Keaton. We also have Patrick Wilson and Jeff Goldblum. A fantastic little movie. This was terrible. it just wasn't funny except for one scene, one line in one scene, something that was said by Will Ferrell, and it made me laugh so hard I almost fell out of the chair. It was just hilarious. And I think if you've seen this movie, you know the scene that I'm talking about. But the rest of it, really bad. I will not keep this. I will give this away. Okay. Anyway, so much for that. I also picked up this Cat of Nine Tails. This is from, let's see, Arrow Video. Yeah, my local Barnes& and Noble, they've started selling some of the Arrow Video packages, and I was very happy to see that. Always been curious about this. This was the second film from Dario Argento after his big success with The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which is a very good film, very good mystery. And I was hoping this would be a lot like it, and I was very disappointed. I didn't like this very much at all. So I will probably not keep this. I may watch it again, give it another chance. James Franciscus, Carl Malden, Catherine Spack. I just didn't grab me. I didn't think it had a very exciting story. It had a few grisly murders, which is no big surprise, but didn't have a very involving story. So, anybody else seen this? What do you think about it? I'd like to hear. Let's see what else. I picked up several things from Kino Lorber recently, and I've been watching most of them. And I'm not. I watch a lot of things that pass for comedy, and I enjoy them, but I don't really sit there and laugh until I'm ready to fall out of the chair, like I did with that one line from the Will Ferrell film. But this movie, The Bride Comes Home, uh, it's sort of a comedy drama, but it gets hilarious at the end. Uh, Claudia Colbert, Fred McMurray, Robert Young. There was a scene at the end where Colbert and Young were supposed to be getting married by this justice of the peace, and then Fred McMurray comes along because he wants to marry her instead, and she says, "Okay, what the hell?" It is just absolutely hilarious, and the whole film was good, but it got really funny at the end, and I was just giggling like I was. Going out of my mind. So yeah, this is a classic comedy. Now, finally, I want to talk about film noir, which of course in November we all get into the Noir-vember thing. And I rewatched a lot of old favorites and some that I had only seen once before and I didn't remember that much about them. Starting off with this classic, James Cagney, White Heat, 1949. Some of my friends we did a Zoom call conference talking about this film just a few weeks ago. It was great fun. Hope we do it again. And Virginia Mayo, Margaret Wycherley plays his mother. There's a very strange relationship between James Cagney, the criminal, and his mother. We also have Edmund O'Brien, Steve Cochran, directed by Raoul Walsh. James Cagney goes back into the gangster genre, which he had tried to escape for a long time, but he takes back the whole persona and he just builds on it. It's one of the best performances he ever gave. Classic film, classic action. Uh, Top of the world. What can I say? And another one that I absolutely love. This is The Setup, starring Robert Ryan and Audrey Totter. This is one of the best boxing dramas that has ever been made. In my opinion, it's better than Raging Bull. I know that's blasphemy to some of you, but this is so good. Robert Ryan is such a great actor. And Audrey Totter is a film noir heroine at MGM during the late 1940s. But in this one, she plays a really good character, a very loving wife of this man who is. Robert Ryan is an older fighter who is really on his last legs, and his wife wants him to quit. He's doing this fight that he hopes will set him back up into being a big name again, but he doesn't know that his own manager is selling him out and he wants him to fail, right? They want him to take a dive, and they didn't even bother to tell him because he's been doing so poorly lately that they assume he's going to lose anyway. Very dramatic film, very well acted by all concerned. All right, and I watched a lot of other film noirs which I didn't bring down to show you, but I'll just read them off here. Mystery Street from 1950, starring Ricardo Montalban, Sally Forrest, Bruce Bennett, Elsa Lanchester, Marshall Thompson, Jan Sterling, Betsy Blair, directed by John Sturges. Great little film, sort of a B movie from MGM, but had a lot of great actors in it. Where Ricardo Montalban is investigating the murder of Jan Sterling, and a lot of wacky and strange characters come into the story, primarily Elsa Lanchester, who's very quirky in this and one of her best performances. Also, here's a film called They Live by Night from 1948, directed by Nicholas Ray, classic director. Farley Granger and Kathy O'Donnell as a couple of um, well, young people who are just sort of doomed to a criminal existence, and they end up going on the run. Very good story, very emotional because you have, I don't know what I'm showing you this for, very emotional acting by very emotional actors, Farley Granger and Kathy O'Donnell. And they came back together in 1950 for a film called Side Street, also with James Craig, Paul Kelly, Gene Hagen, starring or directed by Anthony Mann. A very different kind of film about Farley Granger as a man who is trying to make money and support his wife and their unborn child, and he makes a bad decision and steals a big bunch of money and spends the rest of the film sort of running from not only from the police but also from the men who want to get the money back, and it's very very well done. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Uh, Tension, 1949, starring Richard Basehart, Audrey Totter, Barry Sullivan, and Sid Charisse. And this is a film that I love. I've watched it many, many times. It's about a man who is he's a mild-mannered druggist, right, pharmacist, and he's married to Audrey Totter, who is her sexy film noir, femme fatale self in this one, and he is trying to please his wife and make her happy, and he loses her, so he assumes another identity so that he can kill the man she's run away with. But he changes his mind, but then the man ends up dead anyway. So he's the number one suspect. Very good movie. Uh, Also, I'll try to go through this a little faster. Crime Wave from 1950, starring Sterling Hayden from The Asphalt Jungle and The Killing. This time playing a police detective who was very cynical and very violent. And also have Gene Nelson, Phyllis Kirk, Charles Bronson, Timothy Carey, directed by Andre de Toth. Here's a film called Desperate, 1947. Steve Brody, Audrey Long, Raymond Burr, directed by Anthony Mann. A sort of a B film with sort of B actors, but very well done about a guy who was an ex-con. Well, no, he's not an ex-con. He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's a truck driver. He gets pulled into this this what he thinks is the legitimate job of hauling something. It turns out to be a robbery, and he has to go on the run. Backfire. I love some of the titles. Desperate, Backfire from 1950, directed by Vincent Sherman, Virginia Mayo once again, Gordon McRae, Edmund O'Brien, Dane Clark, Vivica Lindfors. I also watched Deadline at Dawn, 1946. Susan Hayward, Bill Williams, Paul Lucas. Here's a good one. Illegal from 1955. Edward G. Robinson, bringing back his persona from Little Caesar. He's sort of like an older version of Rico, but this time he's a lawyer. But he's not a very honest lawyer. He's kind of a bad lawyer who does bad things to win cases, and he gets involved in this big mess. Nina Foch, Hugh Marlowe, and Jane Mansfield in her very first film appearance. She's very good, young and beautiful, and makes quite an impression. Dial 1119 from 1950. Marshall Thompson as a crazed killer who has escaped from a mental institution, and he traps a bunch of different characters in a bar. And while he's deciding whether he's going to kill everybody or not, and the police are outside. So we have Marshall Thompson, Virginia Field, William Conrad, and then we have the Phoenix City story, which is based on real life happenings from 1955. John McIntyre, Richard Kiley, Catherine Grant, Edward Andrews. This is a film I used to see on TV many times back in the 70s. Always liked it. And finally, Where Danger Lives, 1950, directed by John Farrow. This is a great film noir starring Robert Mitchum, Faith Demergue, Claude Rains, and Maureen O'Sullivan, who, of course, is married to John Farrow. Interesting, different kind of performance by Robert Mitchum. He plays a very good guy who is carried away by one of the ultimate femme fatale characters played by Faith Demergue. Here I am showing you this again. And he ends up, they end up on the run. It's kind of a road film, an odyssey, meeting all kinds of strange characters, and very dramatic, very, very well done, very dark. And that's all I want to say. It's almost 20 minutes. Sorry to keep it so long. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've seen any of these films. Comments are always welcome. Take care, folks.